All right, greetings everybody. I wanted to go over this worksheet in a video. I graded everyone's so far that I have found in the folders and put a little bit of feedback in the correct answers, but I thought it would be easier just to make a video where I kind of worked through these problems so that if you did get it wrong, you could maybe see where you went wrong. This was really challenging. I mean, even though I understood the concept from the textbook and from looking at some films, when I got to this worksheet, I had a hard time grading it until I actually got the key and even talked through a few of them with Amy. So I don't want anyone to feel bad about not being able to get these right away, because these images are a little tricky and just the whole concept's tricky. So where is the circle in relative to the roots on the teeth? Well, if we notice here, we can see that the roots are going, this is central incisors, but we can see that the roots are going off this way, which would be, if we're looking at the patient, it's our right, but they're left. So it's hard to say mesial or distal because we're going to run into calling two things the same thing in a second here. But we could say that the roots are leaning distally. And so we know that roots go in the direction that the beam is going. So then we can say that the beam, we'll say B equals beam. We can say that the beam is going distal. So if the beam is going distal, where is the circle relative to the roots? So the circle started out here. The circle obviously didn't head distal. The circle kind of either stayed in the same place or is heading the opposite direction. So if it's opposite, it's lingual, because that's the way we're doing it. It's the opposite of the slob rule, basically, right? If it's the same as the beam, it's buccal. If it's opposite, it's lingual. So then we know that the circle is lingual. Where is the square relative to the roots of the teeth? So the square started out here, but it moved in this direction, which is the same as the beam. So then we know that it is buccal. So in which radiograph is the beam directed more mesially? So it's good to pick one film. If you have a hard time discerning just direction, it's good just to pick one film as your baseline. So it's better to pick one that's more straight on, something that you can tell was taken more accurately and sort of straight on. So this film here looks more straight on to me than this film, because everything's kind of leaning in this film. So if the image was taken straight on in this film, then it looks to me as though the beam was tilted distally for this film. So in which radiograph is the beam directed more mesially? That would be A. Okay, so that would be A. So that's here. So we'll circle A. So which circle is the mental foramen? So if we notice, we know the mental foramen is going to be a buccal landmark. So this circle 1 moved in the same direction. So if this is mesial, then the beam went distal for this one. So beam equals distal for this film. And then if we notice, this circle number 1 also went distal. So then, since it went the same direction as the beam, this circle 1 must be buccal, and we know that the mental foramen is buccal, and a lot of you guys got that one right anyway. So relative to the root apices, where does the other round object lie? This one went in the opposite direction, so this must be lingual. Which surface is the filling located? The filling also seemed to go in the opposite direction, so it must be lingual as well. Example 3. In what direction was the horizontal angulation changed in passing from radiograph A to radiograph B? So basically, you can look at the mark of the external oblique ridge, and it went from here and it traveled mesially. It traveled mesially up the cusp and landed here. So then we know that the beam, because this is a buccal landmark, so we know the beam traveled mesially. The root canal labeled number 2 is a mesial what canal. So it looks like that one broke off and headed distal, doesn't it? It looks like number 2 headed distal, and we know the beam headed mesial. And it looks like this headed distal. So then that would make it a lingual canal, because it's opposite of the beam. Number 4, is the angulation changed between the two radiographs primarily in a vertical or a horizontal angulation? Well, we can look at this zygomatic process here.